It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
He is him. He is the NXT heavyweight champion. Carmelo Hayes, as everybody and their mother predicted, would defeat Braun Breaker tonight to win the NXT championship. And everybody is out there chanting Mello, and he is him. I got to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. Every time I hear Mello use that phrase, he is him, I think of Kermit the Frog. Doesn't it sound like a Muppets movie? Yeah, just think about it for a minute. You just picture Kermit on the banjo going something like, "Here's him, I am me, welcome to NXT." Right? Doesn't it sound like the Muppets movie? I'm telling you. I don't know. I just get that vibe. Hey, I'm in a Looney Tune kind of mind tonight. And Jesus, we have night one of WrestleMania coming up in a couple of hours. So I know for everyone out there, you don't want to sit here all night long and talk about NXT and other stuff. Here's him. I am me. Welcome to NXT. See, I got to practice my Kermit the Frog. I haven't done it in a while. But hey, man, you know, the NXT torch was passed tonight. Braun Breaker losing to Carmelo Hayes. And I'm excited. And look, the match went down pretty much how we all expected it. The crowd was predominantly behind Carmelo Hayes. Not that they dislike Braun Breaker, but Braun Breaker is slowly turning into a WWE superstar. You know, a little bit animated, some of his antics, that's main roster stuff, and we're not criticizing it, but the fans were ready for a change. I don't think they were ready for this change, though. Did you ever think, in my right mind, I never ever thought Indi Hartwell would become NXT Women's Champion today. And if you saw it, pretty much she is like, what the fuck just happened? She's looking at him like, huh? And then she's like, wait a minute. And then she's like, oh, fuck it. I'm champion. Indi Hartwell, listen, you know, she is so loved on that roster, not just NXT, main roster as well. Pay attention to a lot of main roster names who will definitely go out of their way to congratulate Indi Hartwell tonight. She is very much beloved, and she is one of my favorites also. You know, but just because somebody is one of your favorites doesn't mean that they immediately should be elevated, promoted. You know, you see, you know, these trending tweets out there that sound nice, you know, and it's a lot of cake and ice cream. But when you start analyzing it a little bit, you know, I'm going to say it again. If Indi Hartwell were to debut, let's say she didn't win the title tonight. If she would debut on the main roster tomorrow, on Monday on Raw, or SmackDown next Friday. I mean, you look at how many women that are being pushed right now. Where do you see her fitting in? Now, Roxanne Perez, I have a different view on. Roxanne Perez comes off as that underdog she's like a puppy, you know, like she's got those eyes, everything about her. You fall in love with Roxanne Perez. She's got that character about her. Indi Hartwell, everybody that brings her up want to see her and Dexter Lumis, reuniting. And hey, we got that tonight. But how far does that go on the main roster? Seriously, if Sanity does make their reemergence on the main roster and they feud with, Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis and Indi Hartwell and Candice LeRae, like how far does that go? We see a couple of comedy segments that, they double date or something, Candice and Johnny and Indi and Dexter. We get a little main roster twist to it. And how far does that go? And then what do you do with her? Seriously, you look at the Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. You look at the SmackDown Women's Champion, whether it should, I think it's going to be Rhea Ripley. But even if it's not, even if it's Asuka, you realize how many women Indi Hartwell would have to overtake to get any type of momentum, unless she beats Xia Li 50 times or Lacey Evans or Dana Brooke. As much as we love Indi Hartwell, she doesn't have that character that connects with the WWE universe where she could just cut promos and do this and have interact. She is more, the skits is what we all loved about her. So her winning the women's championship right now, very, very cool. Very cool. Because obviously this is not the time to bring it to the main roster. And again, I'm one of her bigger fans in NXT. And even I say, do not bring it to the main roster right now, because she'll get lost in the shuffle. She'll get used probably similar to like Emma and some others. And then what happens? What happens? You don't want somebody to become damaged goods. It must be frustrating for her. It must be frustrating. I don't feel like she just wants to be NXT for the next couple of years. Shout out to Dell. Dell, wow, holy shit. Dell, man, thank you, man. First super chat sent in 50 spot. NXT, I am him, he is me, I just got a cool fitty. Thank you, Del. Much props. Thank you, Del. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Look, NXT Stand and Deliver, we have 7 matches? Some of them were tremendous. Some of them, listen, is this going to be one of those Stand and Delivers that we're going to really remember years from now? We'll remember 2 or 3 moments from it, but it's not going to be an event that we're going to look. I was looking at this earlier. I still have it. I never gave it away. This is from 1 year ago. They're autographed by everybody. All right. And you look at this card 1 year ago. I'm not going to read you the matches, but I'm just going to read you the names that were on this Stand and Deliver 1 year ago, just to give you an idea how far some people have gone. Now, Dolph Ziggler obviously was helping Braun Breaker. I mean, we understand now it was not a demotion. He was there to help elevate and bring along Braun Breaker. Wesley Nash Carter. Unfortunately, Nash Carter is not back yet. I still believe it's going to happen. Imperium. I mean, look at where they're at right now. And Jesus Christ, I know it's not widely popular. You gotta put Ilja in Imperium and get rid of Giovanni Vinci. You don't have to fire Giovanni. You don't have to release him. But Ilja, I just picture, and I know we like Ilja as a baby face, but you look at Imperium, Vinci is Italian, European. I think Ilja next to Ludwig Kaiser, oh my God. I think it would be fucking tremendous. But I got to be honest with you. I want more Ilja and Jaden McDonagh to have a feud because that was spectacular tonight. Look at the Creed brothers. Creed brothers, look how far they gone. A lot of people think the Creed brothers are going to the main roster now. Ciampa, Tony D'Angelo, Io Sky, Cora Jade, Mandy Rose, Alba Fire, LA Knight. LA Knight took on Gunther last year. Does anybody remember that? Toxic Attraction, Raquel Rodriguez, Dakota Kai, Carmelo Hayes, Santos Escobar, Grayson Waller, Cameron Grimes, Solo Sikoa. And that was 1 year ago. Look at the value of a lot of those guys now 1 year later. A lot of them, their stock has gone up. Now you think about 1 year from now. 1 year from now. And it's just going further. We had that 5-way match tonight, and that was tremendous. Dragon Lee making his WWE NXT debut. Did very, very well. Did very well. There was a couple of scary spots, but, you know, I want people to understand this, and I'm not against flippy stuff. You know, I mean, I like psychology. For me, psychology is number one, more than anything. Seeing a really good match, like I enjoyed El Hijo del Vikingo versus Kenny Omega. But that's not a match I want to see every single week. Because when you see everybody doing insane shit, you get numb to it. You know, when you see a lot of what you see in these matches, you get numb to it. And, you know, that's why I think psychology is so important. Not long-term booking, not building story. There's a lot of psychology involved. Why do you think the bloodline stuff with Sami Zayn worked and worked beautifully? Because the psychological aspect of Sami wanting to be in the bloodline and is white as milk, and he's doing his things and calling, I'm feeling a little oozy, my dog. You know, it's like if I went to the hood and I start going, oh, fly, not blim shot, homeboy, bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to be like, people are going to laugh, but if you get to know the person, you fall in love. The psychology is what's needed. And, you know, you can't just have flippy for the sake of flippy. That's why if you look closely with JD McDonagh especially, that guy does a lot of high-flying spots, but he pisses you off. He uses a lot of psychology. You see some of the wrestlers doing what they're doing. They're not doing it because you just sit there and go, did you see what I just saw? No. For me, it's more like, did you feel what I just felt? That's the psychology more than anything else. And I don't want to start getting numb because everybody does flip shit. So the psychological aspect, I think, is so, so important. And that's why the characters, the association with the fans, you click with that audience, you got them. You got them. You know, you look at that crowd tonight. That crowd was so loud for Carmelo Hayes. Now, you look at Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker. Did Carmelo do half or even 1/10 the moves that these guys did in the five-way? No. Because when you develop your character and your persona and the psychological part of it, you know, you don't have to do those things. But it was a nice blend. Some matches tonight, you know, were a little bit off. I got to be honest with you. We'll get into them. We'll get into them now. But I just wanted to thank Del again for that. That was very, very generous of you, and I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to you. And not saying this to try to get more, but I hope you stick around in the chat and with the shows. And by the way, shout out to everybody who's with me live right now. I know you're in a WrestleMania frame of mind. I know there's a lot of other people that are about to do podcasts or doing one right now. So I want to get right into, you know, the match results and give you just some overall thoughts. I don't want to go too far overboard with it, but, you know, we'll get into it. Shout out to Nero Faye as well. Good luck on the predictions contest. Thank you, Nero, for the 6th spot. Chris Cuttra, thank you for the 20 spot. He's a huge fan of Thea Hale. And if she can get the in-ring working aspect down, and with her energy, he thinks she could be something special. Let me tell you something. No joke. These are my notes for NXT today. I just wrote a couple of lines. But do you know what the first line is for my notes today? Look at, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can pause it. Maybe you can't. I'll just read it to you. You'll trust me. The first line that I wrote for my notes tonight, this is what I wrote. Thea Hale is a Spitfire and was the only one on Team Chase U that felt like she was fighting to keep Chase University. She hit a beautiful swinging DDT to Jagger Reid. And, you know, I go on with I saw it right away. I mean, she's annoying and loud and is like a mosquito, but she, you know, like when you think of university, you think of college, you think of cheerleaders, you think of mascots, you think of people in the crowd. Everybody wants to yell loud, megaphone. You know, she acts the part. She is doing well, man. And the best part about it is she is just starting. You know, she's not even, she just finished school? You know, so you realize that she's just beginning. You know, let's see where she is a year from now, 2 years from now. I'm not going to turn around and say she's going to be the next Bailey or she's going to be the next Roxanne Perez. She's going to be the next this. You know, she's got her own identity about her. She comes off as a girl like you would just like want to hang out with, you know, like, and just play video. I'm not trying, listen, I'm trying to be a little bit innocent here, but you want to play video games, maybe have a beer, like go to a sports bar and watch a football game with. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you might even get a little embarrassed with her energy. But let me tell you something. I did feel bad that these guys were the technically dark match tonight. I tuned in to Peacock at 12:45 p.m. and I see a match in the ring. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, like, who's in the ring right now? And I see Chase University versus the Schism. I'm like, wait, the event starts at 1 o'clock. And I'm like, they started early. And just so you know, Jagger, Reid, you know, one man, half of the Grizzled Young Veterans, after the match was over, he went on Twitter and he wrote this, and I quote, dark match, pre-show, main show, different names, it doesn't matter. We'll always deliver. We'll always be Grizzled. And his profile name on Twitter right now is not his handle is at Jagger WWE, but he has his name as James with a question mark. You got to start asking yourself, are they going to reform, bring back the name Grizzled Young Veterans? I think that's a better way of putting it. Maybe this Schism faction may start breaking up. Go check out his Twitter. You see what I'm talking about. But I kind of felt bad that they were on the pre-show because it was never advertised as the pre-show. And, you know, when you write that on Twitter, I mean, you know, they're making a message like, look, you know, it doesn't matter where we are on the card. We're going to always put out, we're Grizzled with this, with that. It's going to be a little bit of deflating that, you know, you're on a pre-show. And if I would have tuned in at just 1 o'clock, I would have been like, where is the tag match? You know what I mean? And probably like halfway through, I would have said, where's the tag match? So they were on the dark. They were the pre-show. And Chase University did get the win over the Schism. But, you know, I'll say what I was thinking about earlier, and I wrote about Thea Hale. If you go back and you watch that match, it felt like just a plain NXT match. It didn't feel like, you know, like Chase University, Chase University's on the line. No, it's a goofy storyline, just like when the bar was on the line with Fallon Henley and Kiana James and all that other shit. But, you know, it's still NXT, but Thea Hale was the only person that came across. Even the tease with Duke Hudson, you know, that he was going to join the Schism, and he takes the Chase University shirt off and he puts the Schism shirt on. And yes, the crowd was into it. They chanted, "You sold out." You know, but even with that, it just, the match wasn't over. You know what I mean? So, you know, you have Andre Chase. Oh, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? And Tyler Bate had to be put in that match because they were one person short. So it just did not feel anything more than just an NXT match. But what ended up happening was Duke Hudson teased that he was going to join the Schism. Then he put on the shirt and he was standing behind them. And then he does a lot of Hulk Hogan mannerisms if you don't follow NXT. And he tore the shirt just like Hogan does. And he still bleeds red and blue. And ultimately, he and Andre Chase with the Fratliner on Jagger Reid for the win. Ava Reign, The Rock's daughter, I went out of my way to see how social media was going to react to her. And I got to be honest with you, it was pretty fair. I think that would be the better way to put it. If you see her in the ring right now, you will say she's got a long way to go. but she's also someone who has just started. Yes, she's The Rock's daughter, and yes, I'm sure that she wrestled, with her dad and playing around, way before she ever started her NXT career. But even with, like some of the moves, the way that she was throwing down Thea Hale and everything, she's got a long way to go. But she is, you could see that she's starting to get it. She doesn't come across like a cardboard cutout. If you ever see some people that are very, very new, when you have to exaggerate everything, like if you're going to throw somebody down, you don't just throw them down. You got to over exaggerate it. And that's something that she is starting to do. Anthony Bain with the 5 spot. He says, Tiffany, Stratton, and Gigi Dolin are future stars. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hope Tiffany Stratton's okay, by the way. In that women's match tonight, towards the end, she climbed the ladder. And it was, who was it? Was it Gigi Dolin? I think it was Gigi Dolin pushed the ladder. And it was Indi Hartwell. Indi Hartwell pushed the ladder. And Tiffany Stratton, if you saw early, I don't know if anybody picked up on this, a lot of spots where the women were climbing the ladder and then the ladder would be tipped over and then they would hit the ropes. They had a certain step on the ladder that they were focusing on when they would take the spill. In fact, Tiffany Stratton one time when she was about to take the spill, she ran down 2 steps to put herself in position and then land. At the very end, Tiffany Stratton, she climbed a lot higher. And when Indi Hartwell went to push the ladder, tip it over, she didn't try to climb down. So she was going over the top rope. And when she went over the top rope, she did a moonsault. And unfortunately, it didn't seem like anybody really caught her. It wasn't, nobody, it just, hopefully she's okay. Hopefully she's okay. But she took a pretty nice spill with her back outside the ring. She was selling it great. If she was okay, she was selling it like $1 million, but it looked kind of rough, to be honest with you. Something that I also want to tell you about that women's match, but let me just say one last thing. So Chase University gets the win. They get to stay in force. Where this leads Tyler Bate, I don't know. I mean, are we going to do a storyline now where Tyler Bate is an honorary member at Chase University? I don't know if I want Tyler Bate in that. He was fine in the match. And listen, Tyler Bate, obviously, the most talented person on that side of the team. And look, if you keep him around for that team, he obviously could pick up a lot of the slack. Duke Hudson, I'm not going to lie, is starting to grow on me a little bit. Because you could see he has talent. I just never bought him. Once they got rid of Bodie Hayward, he was the replacement for Bodie Hayward. And I was like, it's just, you can't go from Bodie Hayward to him. And I can't believe we do not see that guy. I think they're going to bring him back. Remember why he got let go? He wasn't a problem, didn't commit any wellness violations, didn't get in any legal troubles. He just was taking this a little bit too slow. Maybe not taking it extremely seriously. I'm sure he was not breaking the bank with the amount of money he was making. I would think after this amount of time, no reason why they can't bring him back. I really want to see Bodie Hayward back. I hope they bring him back. So many people were behind the guy. You let him go. You let him wake up a little bit, and let's see. But I will say this. Do you ever hear him? Do you really? I mean, you ever see him? Do you ever notice it? I'm sure he's working, but you don't hear anything. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to think that maybe this guy was just so devastated from it that he just decided, hey, fuck it. So I hope they do bring him back. I know he was on AEW Dark a while back. Yeah, I know that. But that's, that in itself. Yeah. Look at Stax' former partner. They tried to pin him as, the next big thing on the main roster. And, after he wore the fake Sting shit, it really doesn't. You don't see the guy. You don't hear him. You might see his name once in a blue moon. Doesn't feel like someone who maybe got a fire lit under their ass and is just going balls out and saying, I'll show them, Does it feel that way? Doesn't to me. But he is the quintessential, like Austin Nance is saying, he fits like a glove with Chase University. I hope they bring him back. So with the women's match, one thing I wanted to say, by the way, everybody in the match did a great job. Gigi Dolin, arguably the most over. If you paid close attention, Roxanne Perez did not get the crazy pop that I think people were expecting. I don't mean crazy like everybody losing their shit, but she got a lot milder of a reception, in my opinion. And I think some fans were a little bit turned off by the storyline. Like, I think, and listen, I'm not criticizing Roxanne Perez. I'm on her side with this. And I think people forget, no matter how cute somebody could be, no matter how nice they could be, no matter how, you perfect you think they could be, she's a sports entertainer. She is an athlete/actress, and she's playing a part. And, I think some people got personally offended that she lied about this. And I brought it up the other day. You had people that were legitimately concerned for Roxanne Perez. And when you told them that, they're recreating the storylines from Shawn Michaels mid-90s, even Shawn Michaels admitted it over the weekend, about using some of the, refurbishing it. That's been done in wrestling for decades. But, when you told people that she was okay, it's a storyline. Instead of people in droves saying like, oh, thank God. That guy was so worried about her. Like, no, people were angry like, she would never lie to us like that. She would never fake that. No, she really got hurt. Why would you want her to actually? It's just a weirdness. And I think it kind of reflected it tonight. But I want to show you something. I didn't take many I only took 3 screenshots from the show today. The Indi Hartwell stuff, one picture with Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, and one other one. Oh, actually, no, I took one with Ilja and JD McDonagh because I thought they fucking killed it today. Those two, to me, that match was everybody versus JD McDonagh. JD McDonagh, he is really becoming that irritable, you just want to see him get his ass kicked kind of guy, and keep him on NXT for a little while. I don't think he should go to the main roster yet. Ilja, I want to see in the main roster. JD McDonagh, I could see him feuding with Carmelo Hayes. But I want to show you something, okay? After Indi Hartwell won the title, and basically how she won the title, we could talk about this. And I also want to give some props to Tyra Valkyria. She was the star for a big part of this match. Everybody worked their ass off. Gigi Dolin worked their ass off. Tiffany Stratton worked their ass. Zoey Stark did great. Indi Hartwell did. Everybody in the match did great. But Valkyria, you could see that she's the most polished of them all. Because everybody was positioning themselves to do spots. And some of these spots, very, very stiff, very, very, risky. Most of it was pulled off, but she is just polished. And you could see during that match, she was the ring general. Early on, I thought she hurt her wrist really bad because she was really shaking it off early on. But towards the end of the match, as I said, you had all throughout the match, the ladders being utilized inside the ring, outside the ring. Tiffany Stratton goes up the ladder, dumped down. Everybody getting dumped down. But towards the end, as I said earlier, Tiffany Stratton climbs the ladder to get the title. And she's much higher on the ladder compared to the other moments in the match. And Indi Hartwell dumps her off. She does almost like a swanton, almost like outside the ring. And she just flips over, and she's supposed to land on everybody, but, unfortunately, she kind of absorbed most of the impact with her back. So now after this happens, Indi Hartwell is in the ring by herself. Now, I'm not going to lie. Indi Hartwell is probably the last person that I thought was going to win this championship, not because I'm not a fan. I mean, I think I've said it enough. People know that I'm a huge fan of hers. But the way she's been utilized in NXT, let's be honest, Go look at her match results for the last 6 to 9 months. Her winning percentage might be 20%. I know it's sports entertainment, but there's also a perception that when someone's on a roll, you're like, hey, that person's on a roll. That person should be champion. When somebody loses 80% of their matches, you don't get that thought in the back of your mind, oh, she's ready for the championship. You know what I mean? So Indi Hartwell was the last person that I thought was going to be champion. But she started climbing the ring, but she was exhausted. She was exhausted. And next thing you know, Dexter Lumis shows up. And he's got a head like underneath her legs. Nothing sexual, but everybody's popping. And Dexter Lumis is there. And Dexter Lumis picks up Indi Hartwell, puts her on her shoulders almost like a chicken fight, and starts climbing the ladder for her. And she gets to the top of the ladder, and she grabs the championship. And like I showed you earlier, she's like, wait a minute, Index? And she's got that look at her face like, no, this can't be happening. And then she's looking the other way, and she's like, did this just happen? Am I? And she's like, oh, fuck yeah. And it was an awesome moment. It was an awesome moment. And even later on, and I'm going one step ahead, but even later on, when Johnny Gargano beat Grayson Waller, this was a very cool moment. On the rampway, Johnny Gargano, Indi Hartwell, Candice LeRae, Dexter Lumis, all their arms raised in the air. And, you know, for NXT fans, that's a big moment. Again, main roster. I know for a lot of us NXT fans, you know, we would enjoy it on the main roster. You see how people will say, oh, that's a Vince move. Oh, that's Vince call. Oh, and if it comes off corny, oh, it's Vince. And you know, people are going to just ultimately shit all over it. You know, people talk about goofy, dumb segments. Tell me how this is really going to succeed on the main roster. You know, people complain even with the Madcap Moss and Emma stuff. And I think that's leading to a heel turn for Moss. But even with that, you know, people are complaining like, we don't want to see relationships on TV. We want to see wrestling. So for NXT standards, that was a fun moment. That was a fun moment. So Indi Hartwell is now your new NXT champion on the women's side. Now I want to show you something. Like I said earlier, I only got 3 screen grabs, but I also got a video one. Now, the quality is not that great, but it's something I want you to take close attention to. After Indi Hartwell won, the other 4 participants in the match, Gigi Dolin, Zoey Stark, Tiffany Stratton, and and Valkyria, they're outside the ring because Tiffany Stratton, you know, was supposed to like dump right on top of all of them. And when they showed the camera on the 4 women outside the ring, everybody was selling disappointment, injury, except for one. For my video friends, look at your screen. Pay a close attention. Okay, I paused it. Just pay close attention. Roxanne Perez smiling from ear to ear. Zoey Stark selling the pain. Tiffany Stratton selling the pain. Valkyria selling disappointment. Roxanne Perez smiling from ear to ear. Extremely happy for Indi Hartwell winning the championship. Think of the whole storyline about taking her title away and giving her the spot back at Stand and Deliver, and she's smiling that someone that she likes took her championship from her. Think about that. Why is that a big deal to me? I think Roxanne Perez is going to the main roster. This was not like the Sasha Banks Bianca Belair moment where Sasha was outside the ring and smiling. And, you know, we're talking about NXT right now. Think of the storyline with Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez, you know, she is smiling and happy for Indi Hartwell. I think she's going to the main roster. I think, you know what I think? I'm probably wrong, but in hindsight, you know what I think? I think originally they were going to write Roxanne Perez off of NXT. When they did the injury thing and she can't defend it and this and that, I wonder if they were going to just write her off, do the ladder match without her in it, and then she just pops up on Raw or SmackDown right after it. And I think Shawn Michaels or somebody maybe got together and said, look, we don't want to leave this incomplete. Johnny Gargano with Grayson Waller was incomplete because Johnny Gargano left so he and Candice LeRae could have their first child. So there was no way to finish that story. But in the back of a lot of people's minds, that story with Gargano and Waller was never finished. Roxanne Perez losing the championship because she had to forfeit it due to injury and then just disappear, I think that would have just come off beyond, I don't want to say stupid, but too incomplete. Too incomplete. So I think she's main roster bound. And again, you got to obviously tread lightly with Roxanne Perez on the main roster. I could see her aligning herself with someone. See, when we talked about Indi Hartwell earlier, all right, I know what some people can say, oh, you could align her with Candice LeRae. They could be a tag team. Look at the tag team division on the women's roster, on the main roster. The tag team division is kind of weak. So they would fit in like a glove. Yeah, the problem is that, there are a couple of tag teams that are currently formed that, they're not overtaking. And if you look at Candice LeRae on the main roster, with all due respect, her, it doesn't feel like they're really pushing her that strong either. They just recently had the match. She teamed up with Michin, and it didn't win. They didn't win. So, yeah, you could have Indi Hartwell team with Candice LeRae, but is that going to result in lots of wins? I don't know. So I could see Roxanne Perez going to the main roster. Maybe she aligns with Raquel Rodriguez. I know they have Liv with her right now, but, Liv, I think people want to see more as a single star. I still want Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss to team. I think Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss as a tag team would be money. I know we got a little teaser in the past. We've talked about that. I think they would be a great tag team. But congratulations to Indi Hartwell, the new NXT Women's Champion. And you know what? I guess it should be appropriate, right? If we at least have the banners on the screen, right? Chase University retains, and Indi Hartwell is your champion on the women's side. All right. This match to me was very disappointing. I don't know why Vic Joseph and Booker T were emphasizing that Tony D'Angelo and Stax really brought their A game. I mean, look, Tony D'Angelo is still new. I know a whole year has gone by, but he is developing nicely. I'm not criticizing him at all. But basically this match, it felt like the Creed brothers' swan song. I think the Creed brothers could go to the main roster. Hell, I could see the Creed brothers and even Braun Breaker possibly doing something together. I mean, those three I think would fit like a glove. A lot of people feel the Creed brothers are kind of like the Steiners of what they used to be. But Gallus retains, and they ended up pinning Stax. And basically what happened in this match is that Joe Coffey showed up, made his return, and he interfered and basically caused Stax to get pinned. The Creed brothers were great in this match, but they were not pinned. They were pretty much taken out a few moments before. And after the match is over, you kind of felt like the Creed brothers were pretty much out of NXT. Creed brothers on the main roster would be really fucking interesting. I mean, I don't know who they would feud with right away. I certainly don't want them feuding with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn or the Usos. So it'd be really interesting. Street Profits, Viking Raiders, maybe them feuding with Indus Sher for a little while might have been to prepare them for the Viking Raiders. But did they face the Viking Raiders when the Viking Raiders came back to NXT for a little while? I don't remember if they did, but I could see possibly the Creed brothers and the Viking Raiders maybe doing something. But after this match was over, this is something I did not like. Pretty Deadly are the hosts for the show, and they're trying to get scoops. They go to Braun Breaker's locker room, Carmelo Hayes' locker room. And listen, Pretty Deadly are fucking great. I don't know if they're going to the main roster as of right now because they are advertised for NXT on Tuesday. Because what happened was after Tony D'Angelo and Stacks lost, they're in the back of the locker room. And look, I don't know if you've realized it, but it kind of feels like they have moved away from the deep Sopranos type storyline. Like the family is more like loyalty. You know, it's not like mafia stuff anymore. It doesn't feel like, you know, as Italian as it was before. But when Stacks says, oh, I let you down, I disappointed you, and Tony D'Angelo's like, no, you didn't disappoint me. We're family. And where we come from, we never give up. And I'm like, hey, Stu Nuts, where you come from, you fucking chop their knees off. You break their fucking knees next time. After you don't turn around and say, no, we always get up. Joe Coffey makes his return. He's not even in the match. Joe Coffey lays out Stacks. You don't say, oh, I disappointed you. I failed. No, you didn't fail. We're family. Where we come from, we get up. We never quit. Fuck is that? You're supposed to say, hey, where we come from, Joe Coffey, you watch. You better put on some knee pads because you might see a baseball bat across your knees. You'll never see it coming. That's what you do. So they kind of moved away from that. They're kind of taken away a little bit of D'Angelo and Stacks' identity. I think the more you see, I know it sounds petty, I think the more you see Channing, Stacks, Lorenzo, instead of Stacks, I think they're moving away from that mafia aspect of the storyline. And you know what? It might be best in the end because they don't have anybody there as far as the writing wise that really could identify. Like the last thing that I would do is try to like write story or try to write verbiage for somebody's from the hood. You know what I mean? Like me doing that, you know how awful that would come across. So I think they just can't identify like, oh, what would somebody like Tony D'Angelo really do? You know, they ain't going to go whack anybody. They're not going to have a horse's head in somebody's bed. We're not going to see Wendy Chu sleeping in the locker room and she pulls the covers down and there's a fucking horse's head in the bed. You know, but when they're like, oh, where we come from, we never give up. We never quit. You know, that sounds like something John Cena would say, you know? All right. So Gallus retains their titles, full-blown heels now, thanks to Joe Coffey. And we'll see who they feud with next. We'll see what happens with the Creed brothers. We talked a little bit about this match early on. This match was solid from top to bottom. Dragon Lee making his debut, doing enough to show everyone why the hype is real. Axiom, I think a little bit of a gripe because he has not been utilized in NXT, you know, A-Kid, as much as probably he expected it to be. Wesley is money. I know Mello is money, but Wesley is money. He's got it. And, you know, you remember maybe even 6 months ago, Wesley felt like he was all over the place. All over the place. But Wesley, he's obviously got it. And that leaves JD McDonagh and Ilja. And throughout this whole match, these two guys fucking with each other. There was one point in the match where Ilja must have given, you know those chops? I mean, you see it mostly with Eddie Kingston, where he'll just chop like this. I know some people don't like when Eddie Kingston does that because it looks corny on TV. It doesn't look like it hurts. I swear on my mother. I swear on my mother. If I pull my chest down right now, you see the redness? You see the redness? Oh, and I didn't even hit. It hurts. And I got a shirt on underneath. Imagine you do this on skin. It hurts. Ilja must have did 75 of them to Axiom. Just one after the, and I'm thinking like, having flashbacks of him versus Gunther. What he did to Axiom made Gunther look like child's play tonight. But they fucking beat the shit out of each other. But what I loved about the match was there was a lot of psychology as well. It's not just doing flippy just to do flippy. And, you know, you're going to do a move. Like, you know, there was one part, I got to admit, Wes Lee tried to break up a pin. And you're in the corner. Now, all you got to do, suspension of disbelief, all you got to do is just run up, kick the person. Seriously, right? No, he's got to climb the rope and do a fucking like 450 reverse, upside down, right side up, flippy, tumbleweed, like to break up the pin. If it's a heel and you want to showboat, that's fine. But I absolutely love the fact that, these guys tore it up. And JD McDonagh, more than anything, he just comes off as somebody you just want to see get the shit knocked out of him. Like I've said before, and I'm sorry if it offends anyone, but if Finn Balor and Chris Benoit had a love child, it would be JD McDonagh. Seriously. If one of them could have conceived, it would have been JD McDonagh. That's what he looks like to me. Just somebody you just want to smack, but he's got so much talent. I'm curious to see where he is a year from now with WWE. When I brought up that poster from a year ago, you see a lot of those names where they are now. Some of them, their stock has really gone up. I mean, you look at Imperium to LA Knight, EO Sky, I think, is doing good. I know Damage Control. Look at Solo Sikoa. Jesus Christ. Solo Sikoa. Look at 1 year ago compared to now. It's insane with some of these names. So I'm very curious to see a year from now where some of these guys are. But in the end, Wesley retains. Cardio kick to Ilja for the win. And, I think a lot of fans wanted Ilja. If there was going to be a title change at all, I mean, I know online a lot of people said we're preparing like, oh, Dragon Lee. No. Dragon Lee is gonna. Oh yeah, the championship says Lee, but it's not Wesley. It's Dragon Lee. But no, I think most people, I think Ilja probably was the one that people expect. In fact, you know what? Give me a feud with Ilja versus Wesley. I don't care that they're two baby faces. Those two guys, Jesus, they're doing another pay-per-view in May. They're going to do a premium live event in May. That would be some crazy buildup. Wesley versus Ilja, that could be one of the feuds of the year. We'll see. We will see. So congrats to Wesley on retaining his championship. Now, before we get into the final three matches, want to get into two more super shout outs if you do not mind. I have to just check something here. And hold on a second. Let's get out of here. There we go. Yes, as we talked about earlier, Tiffany, Stratton, and Gigi Dolin, future stars, absolutely. I got to see, because something happened today. You know what? Before we talk about T. Smitty's comment, something happened today with Gigi Dolin again. And I got to be honest with you, the crowd didn't seem to be really into it either. Jacy Jayne appeared. And there was one point in the match where Gigi Dolin climbed the ladder. And the next thing you know, Jacy Jayne climbs the ladder. And she's like, hi, remember me? And she decks Gigi Dolin. And Gigi Dolin falls on the ladder. And that's pretty much it for Gigi Dolin in the match. The crowd has not been into this feud between the two. I mean, some people are holding out hope that Mandy Rose makes a return next week. Hey, never say never. I don't feel it, but never say never. But I could probably see, a storyline where Mandy Rose tries, if she was to make a return, where she tries to get everybody back together. Like everybody's fighting, everybody's this. The problem is that I think it would kill any momentum that Jacy Jayne has right now. Just think about everything that Jacy Jayne has done up to this point. It's about me. It's about me. It's about me. It's about me. Maybe Mandy Rose returns, and maybe Mandy Rose tries to get everybody back on good terms. And then maybe we see a fake hug, and then maybe Jacy Jayne turns on Mandy Rose. Maybe we get a feud with Mandy Rose and Jacy Jayne. I think that actually would be better accepted than Jacy Jayne versus Gigi Dolin. Gigi Dolin and Jacy Jayne has fallen flat. And I think it's fallen flat because people did not want them to split in the first place. But if Mandy Rose were to make a return and Jacy Jayne got in Mandy Rose's face, oh, now it's a little bit different. I think people would want to see Mandy Rose beat the shit out of Jacy Jayne. We will see. We shall see. All right. So, by the way, Daniel-san, no, I did not see anything come in from you, but I would like to, for a moment, talk about T. Smitty's. Where did you go, T. Smitty? Where did you go? There you go. You didn't realize how big Ava Reign is. That young lady has so much pressure on her, but she did a good job. He looks forward to watching her develop. Thank you for the 5 spot, too. Yeah, look, as I said earlier, I don't think people were being light on her on social media because she's The Rock's daughter. If anything, it's the opposite. If anything, it's the opposite. They would be extra brutal. Can you imagine if Twitter was around in 1995 when Rocky Maivia made his debut? Holy shit. You know what? It's weird because I think there would be so much hate that I wonder if all the clickbait and the fake news, I wonder if people would start reporting that WWF is considering, bringing The Rock, bringing Rocky Maivia back down to Ohio Valley Wrestling for more seasoning, that it's just not working, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, you look at some of what went down in the 90s. If we had Twitter at that time, some people's careers, I don't know how they would have panned out. Can you imagine if social media was around when The Undertaker debuted? There was a time where a lot of people thought that The Undertaker character was stupid. He ain't really dead. Oh, Paul Bearer. Oh, yeah, I get it. Paul Bearer. There's enough assholes online that would have done that. I think Undertaker still would have ruled, but he would have had a much more difficult time. Thank God some of these people didn't have social media early in their careers. But Ava Reign, I thought social media was pretty fair on her. I thought they were very fair with her today. But you could see she has a long way to go. She's decent, for the progression. But, they did not have her do too much today. If you look a little bit more closely, Thea Hale got into it with the schism more than Ava Reign's part of the schism, but she got into with the guys a little bit more than you would have expected because they did, when she interacted only with Ava Reign. And here's another thing too, there was offense by Thea Hale on Ava Reign, but not as much as you would have expected because I think they are concentrating on Ava Reign having offense right now and not so much defense. If you look closely, you kind of feel like they're working on the offense side for Ava Reign right now and not as much on the defense because they're not going to have her have a match where she's got to take a lot of defense, selling, if people want to use the term selling. So she's got a lot of pressure on her, but you know what? Yes, we know it's The Rock's daughter, no question, but it doesn't feel like she's getting extra privileges because she's The Rock's daughter. You know what I mean? Like, if they aligned her with Carmelo Hayes, maybe some people would be like, oh, they're putting her with the champion because of who she is. But they aligned her with the schism. And that's not to throw any shade towards the schism, but at least they put her with a faction that is not the focal point of the show. So, but thank you for that, T. Smitty. Daniel-san, when are we doing WrestleMania reviews? Well, I've hyped this to death the last couple of days. Kev and I, based on the predictions that we did, that we released on Thursday for everyone, we're doing a recap and a review on Tuesday. And that recap is also going to include the Raw after WrestleMania. We are going to record the show live on Patreon Tuesday at 10. Hear me out, everyone. It's not a Patreon. Don't get mad. As soon as it's over, it's going to be online for everyone. So we're going to stream it live at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And as soon as it's done, which will be around midnight Tuesday, it'll be online for everyone. And if anybody that's going to say to me, oh, it should be Sunday, listen, let's be honest, everyone. Let's be honest. I'm not stupid. I appreciate everybody who tunes into my stuff. But what I find happening quite often is that a lot of people out there will tune into other people's live shows and then tune into my stuff later on. And when you have 10,000 people all doing recaps at the same time, everybody is fighting over everybody to tune into stuff. I don't want to fight with people over how many viewers. I just want to put on a good show. So Kevin and I are going to do it less than 48 hours after WrestleMania is over. We're going to, look at everything that's gone down. And plus, by doing it on Tuesday, we eliminate all of the, what's going to happen on Raw? What do you think is going to happen on Raw? What if this could happen? Do you think this person's going to show up? Is Braun Breaker going to show up? Is it? So it already would have happened. Yeah. So Kevin and I are going to be doing that Tuesday. And after Tuesday, I don't know when the next show, Don Tony and Kevin Castle show will be. But one thing we'll be sure, we'll definitely keep everybody updated. So, and if you have not checked out our predictions show yet, you really should. I mean, I'm not even saying it to pat us on the back. Not only we totally kill it, but the scenarios we came up with like Trish Stratus, like how this heel turn is going to go down, which I don't believe is going to happen at Mania. The possibility of Christian Cage returning, who Bobby Lashley is going to probably face at WrestleMania. There's so many things that we talked about besides match results, and I'm telling you, almost everything that we said is probably going to happen. No, we're not putting it on YouTube. First of all, entrance music gets hit with copyright strikes, and number two, like I said, I want the shows to be good, and I'm not going to risk copyrights and channel takedowns and episodes being pulled and having to edit stuff and this and that. No. There are some people on YouTube that are YouTube, personalities, characters. I'm a podcaster that does video as well, but I'm not going to do stuff on YouTube just so there's a video aspect. Kevin Castle does not do video. My history shows are not on YouTube because I am not going to get hit with copyright. I want to give everybody good shows. I don't want to edit, delete, and eliminate and this and that just so it could be on a YouTube channel. So, DonTony.com. I'm not removing copyrighted music. I'm not doing that. There's intros, there's outros being worked on, and the music puts people in the mood. Now, the people that get 10, 20, 30,000 people live for their YouTube shows, they could, and I'm not like leaving YouTube. It's just some of my content is not going to be there, so we don't have any problems with YouTube. Not going to do that. Not going to do that. So, and I understand, whatever we do is not going to get 100% approval rate, but there's going to be a nice balance. There's going to be a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's going to be a lot of stuff on DonTony.com. You could access it. And the best part is it's all free. All right, so let's get back. Let's start wrapping this up. Let's start bringing it home. Next match we had, my favorite match of the night. Johnny Gargano beating Grayson Waller in an unsanctioned match. Easily my favorite match of the night. The five-way was excellent. Indi Hartwell winning was a nice surprise. This match told the story. It told the story. When Johnny Gargano left, and we thought he was gone for good. We thought he was going to end up at AEW, lighter schedule, now with a kid, want to stay home a little bit more. We never thought he was going to be returning to WWE. We hoped, but we really didn't know. Came back, main roster, but there was a story that was not finished, and that was Grayson Waller with Johnny Gargano. And what was so great about this, yes, he's Johnny Wrestling. He's known for wrestling, but I think some people also forgot that Johnny Wrestling can also brawl. And this was a fucking brawl. There were chairs used, tables, Singapore canes, and I guarantee you, Grayson Waller would be the biggest moron in the world of professional wrestling if this guy does not have pictures of his back on Twitter tomorrow. We were talking about this on the history show, plugging it a week or two ago, when Bob Backlund was whipped by, I think it was Sergeant Slaughter with Harvard step test in 1983 when we saw it on TV. If we had Twitter back then, there would have been zoomed in pictures all over Twitter of what his back looked like afterwards. Grayson Waller, I guarantee you, within a couple of hours, you got to wait. See, what people need to realize, and I'm sure, look, if you've ever had a welt on your back or something, you don't just immediately take a picture. You don't take a picture 5 minutes later and say, look, everybody, look what happened to me. No, you wait a couple of hours. When that shit gets red and it gets scabby and it gets raw, you know, a couple of hours from now, Grayson Waller is going to post pictures of his back online. He got whipped. Candice LeRae got him good several times. That's not the one, though. Candice LeRae started whipping Gargano with a Singapore cane. And the last shot that she hit, she broke into a bunch of pieces. She really nailed him. He grabs what's left of the Singapore cane. Now, obviously, they're stalling so Johnny Gargano could whale him from behind. Johnny Gargano had a Singapore cane of his own, ran around the ring, and whacked Grayson Waller so hard. There is one welt. I haven't seen somebody saying that there's pictures online already. I can't wait to see them, but there's going to be more. Trust me, when that starts to bruise, there's going to be more. There's going to be some markings that haven't developed yet. That'll be tomorrow. He whacked him on the left side of Waller's back. And if you go and you watch that shot, that was the shot. There's going to be one welt on Waller's back that people are going to be like, what the fuck? And you'll see the shot when he grabbed the cane from Candice LeRae and was taunting Candice LeRae. Watch the shot that Gargano hit him with. That was the one. That was the one. And when Waller was writhing in pain, yeah, he was right. Listen, Grayson Waller, when he first came to NXT, I hated the guy. You know, I'm not a fan of Vanilla Ice. Even when he was selling real estate, even when he had nice designs for houses, I still didn't like him. And to me, it was like, forgive me to my Australian friends out there. I know my show is really popular in Australia. It's usually in the top 15. But, you know, Grayson Waller, when he first came in, it was like Vanilla Ice had a love child with John Cena, who basically stood in Australia for 10 years and came back with an Australian accent. That's what it sounded like. I did not like this guy. I didn't like the name. I'm like, who names their kid Grayson? It's like, it doesn't even sound like a name. I mean, forgive me for all the Graysons out there. Trust me, I've never had someone say, Grayson from Ohio is tuning in tonight. He put on a performance today. And I said it on predictions. The guy's going to lose today, and he loses nothing. That guy is on the fast track to the main roster. That guy has a huge future in WWE. I think if he bulks up a little bit more, it's not that he needs it, but I think if he gets a little bit more mass on his upper body, you see Austin Theory. Look at Austin Theory from a year ago to now. You know, you don't notice it, but look at him for a year ago to now. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that Grayson Waller has to be like that, but that guy's got it. He's got it. He took an ass kicking. And listen, Johnny Gargano took a beating too. Wasn't one-sided, but everything about the match told the story. Johnny Gargano, you know, I'm a huge fan of his. Very, very generous guy. And, you know, I could tell a very nice story personally about Johnny Gargano another time, but not now. But I will say this. You know, the perception that I get online from people that don't like Johnny Gargano is that he plays video games, like he's kind of nerdy, and, you know, he's like a Triple H guy, and, you know, his wrestling doesn't really stand out, and he's too small, and, you know, there's a lot of little things. You know, hopefully Conan's Hall of Fame speech yesterday, hopefully that kind of like shuts up some people online about size and gender, and it put such a smile on my face. Look, we're not talking WWE right now. We're just going to talk NXT, but I will say this. I watched his Hall of Fame induction of Ray yesterday. Look what I wrote 2 days ago about Conan on my Twitter. I don't think people understood how close and how much Ray and Dominic look up to Conan. And Conan, some people are saying it's the greatest induction speech ever. Nick Aldis even said that. Anybody that's ever put it, greatest ever. Conan was being I'm sorry for doing it this way, but I'm going to just say it. Conan was being Charles Ashenoff yesterday. That's what he was. He was being him, the guy, and people see that. And it put a real nice smile on my face. And, I sent a message to him earlier today about a few things. And you want to know something that's so awful, everyone? I wasn't going to bring it up. I'll bring it up. Do you know people still try to, provoke shit with me and him from the kidney drive from years ago? I don't bring it up anymore because there's a bunch of assholes, usually on message boards, that still like to, cause a rift there. God forbid you help someone and you are happy to see that they're doing good, and it angers people so much that they actually contact him and say, you guys remember about a week and a half ago? I don't know if it was the sit-down episode, and I said to all of these haters and backstabbers, I don't give a shit about them anymore. I just want to entertain all of you. I don't do it to trigger them. And I said, and when you hear tragic things happen to them, to me, I don't have sympathy anymore. It's good for you. Good for you. Now you know what it feels like. Now you want everybody to give you sympathy. Go fuck yourself. That's how I feel about backstabbers and haters. Sometimes you forgive, absolutely, but some people, you're never, ever going to turn them into good. They're always going to be the lowest of the low. And when I said that, do you know somebody actually contacted Conan and said, oh, did you hear what Don Tony said about you the other day? That you backstab? You guys have no idea what some of the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. So, listen, we know what the truth is, but it's pretty fucking awful. And it's always, and the worst part about it is that, especially the Facebooks and the message boards, is that people who run these pages, who are supposed to be the most beautiful, nicest people in the world, they create that environment and they leave that environment to stay there. They leave it there so everybody could put everybody else down because it's freedom of speech. That's why I don't run a Facebook anymore. That's why we don't even allow it over here. We don't allow anybody to talk, nasty shit about anybody. You don't allow it, but you create an environment because people are more concerned about having a whole bunch of people surrounding them than have good people. I'd rather have 10 good people around me than 1,000 assholes. That's how I look at it. So, but, no, 6, one of my listeners and friends, Chad Broadwater, gave him a kidney. So just so you know. But I don't talk about it anymore because then, you get these weird haters that somehow get triggered by that. But it's all good. But anyway, so Grayson Waller and Johnny Gargano told a beautiful story. Johnny Gargano showed that he might be nerdy. He might play video games. He might be this nicey guy, but if you fuck with him and you fuck with his family, he is going to fuck you hard. And I don't mean that in a sexual way, but he beat the shit out of Grayson Waller. And the end of the match, he took a chair, put Grayson Waller's head inside the chair, took another chair, whacked it. Beautiful visual. The sound it makes, everybody's like, oh, holy shit. And then he puts him in a submission move and takes him out. And what did he put him in? He put him in the oh shit. I know I wrote it down. Oh, the Gargano escape. It's almost like a crossface. The Gargano escape. And gets the win. Art is asking, am I doing the usual show on Monday? Yeah, I'm still doing a show Monday. We got a lot of things to talk about. We got Mondays are not just, we're going to talk about Raw, but yeah, no, Monday's going to be a regular show. Tuesday is going to be 90% WrestleMania and 10% Raw ramifications. So no, Monday, normal show. So Gargano puts him in the Gargano escape. And after the match is over, like I showed you earlier, they're on the rampway. And just a really, really nice thing to see. Really nice thing to see. This was such a fun storyline. And yes, there's one person missing. Technically, there's one person missing. And that's Austin Theory. But obviously, that's not going to be happening anytime soon. Some people want to see an Austin Theory, Johnny Gargano feud. I don't know if that would help on the main roster right now. I think Austin Theory, we talked about it last week that maybe Austin Theory could maybe do a little legend killer thing. You know, maybe he goes at it with Edge for a little while. Maybe he goes after Rey Mysterio. Maybe he goes after a couple of AJ Styles. You know, maybe he starts going after some legends. But this was a spectacular match. My favorite match of the night. So that leaves us 2 other matches. And honestly, you know, this was so predictable. And I'm going to just say it. You kind of feel like, what was the purpose of putting the tag titles on Fallon Henley and Kiana James? I know the storyline with the bar and the brothers, Brooks and Jensen. I know all that, but you know, the funny thing is that they had it on Katana, Kaden Carter and Katana James. Why do I feel like I reversed the names? But Kaden Carter and Katana James. They had the belts on them for a while. And at some point, we all were like, you know what? I never thought Carter and Katana Chance. I knew I was saying something wrong. Thank you, Christopher. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. CNC Music Factory. We thought, hey, they're ready for the main roster. A lot of people thought that. Then they dropped the belts to these two. And if you even pay attention with the ratings, any quarter hour that Katana Chance and Kaden Carter were on, they were the worst quarter hours of the night. And all of the momentum dissipated. I still think they're main roster because I don't know who they could feud with at this point. But they put the belts on Kiana James and Fallon Henley. And you look back on it and you just say to yourself, why didn't they just put the belts, go from Carter and Chance to Isla Dawn and Alba Fire? I'm kind of like, I don't know what this purpose was. In the end, what this match was today, to summarize it, Kiana James was getting her ass kicked towards the end of the match, and she had a loaded purse. And she wanted to use the loaded purse. And Fallon Henley's like, no, we got to do it the right way. And the brothers are kind of arguing about it. And Kiana James wants her loaded purse, and they don't give her the loaded purse. So we get Isla Dawn hits her with, what did he hit her? She hit her with? She hit her with the backstabber. And then Alba Fire with the Swanton pins Kiana James, new tag team champions. And, Kiana James is a heel. She's never, to me, come across as a baby face. I don't care what storyline they've been doing with her. It just feels off. It's not believable. It doesn't fit. Let me put it this way. Do you remember when Fallon Henley and Kiana James won the tag titles? Do you remember how Kiana James cheated? Do you remember I said, be interesting on that next episode of NXT that Fallon Henley confronts Kiana James? Why did you do that? I want to do this the right way, fair and square. She never questioned her. Never questioned her. But tonight, the loaded purse. No, we got to do it the right way. And it cost them. Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, good tag team champions. Let's see where it goes from here. As I said with predictions on Wednesday, Alba Fire, as a single star, she's still, a lot of holes were very visible. That doesn't sound appropriate, but you know what I'm talking about. She had some issues that she needed to tighten up. That doesn't sound good either. But with her teaming up with Isla Dawn, now the focus is not just on Alba Fire, and they work great with each other. I know not everybody's into that tag team, but they freaking work great with each other. So they won the tag titles. Now the question is, who are they going to feud with next? You almost feel like they need to put together another tag team or two. And please, I have nothing against them, but don't give me Valentina Feroz and someone else. They're not ready. They're not ready. So our main event, very easy. Carmelo Hayes, we opened up talking about it. We will close this show talking about it. Carmelo Hayes beats Braun Breaker. I'm not going to lie to you. I never lied to you. But I don't know why do people say that? I'm not going to lie to you. I never lie to you. But I'll say it. This match fell a little flat for me. The match, I felt, was a little rushed. Early on in the match, Trick Williams gets ejected because he stood on the apron and didn't do anything. He was basically, I think, kind of like trying to like talk some sense into Carmelo Hayes. But, early on in the match, the crowd was heavily behind Carmelo Hayes. Braun Breaker still, but, every time Braun Breaker was acting more like a sports entertainer than an NXT star, I think the crowd was giving him a little haze. And, I know about what happened with Rick Steiner over the weekend. We're not going to talk about it tonight. We'll talk about it on Monday. But, I don't think anybody took it out on Braun Breaker because that was something that some people were worried. Like, I hope the fans will tell. People aren't stupid. Rick Steiner's views doesn't mean it's Braun Breaker's views. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with Rick Steiner, Google it or go on Twitter. Not very good. Not very good. Not good at all, actually. Pretty awesome. Pretty awful. I almost said awesome. Pretty awful. I don't know. Even if you feel the way you feel, if you're Rick Steiner, how the fuck do you just open your mouth like that? Sometimes you got to just shut the fuck up. Look it up. It's a pretty big deal. So anyway, this match felt like Gaga early on. I mean, they work great together. Don't get me wrong, but something felt missing. And the reason why it felt missing was the finish. Trick Williams got on the apron. The referee ejects him. Crowd didn't like it. Trick Williams, more over than people realize. Trick Williams is going to be a big star as well in WWE. On the main roster, I'm believe it or not, I'm looking forward to Trick Williams on the main roster just as much as Carmelo Hayes. I'm not bullshitting you. But he gets ejected. Then we get a ref bump. Braun Breaker puts the Steiner recliner on Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes starts tapping like this. And here comes Trick Williams, hits Braun Breaker in the back of the head with the belt. Yes, keep that thought in the back of your head. No pun intended. Or maybe pun intended. He hits him with the belt. And, the referee, he was knocked out. So Trick Williams, just shakes the referee. And the referee, very, very bad acting. The referee literally just went like you gave him Norcam or something. Seriously. If you ever seen what Norcam is, that's what it looked like. It looked like Trick Williams gave him Norcam. He got up and he goes right over into the ring like nothing ever happened, but he didn't see Trick Williams because Trick Williams got ejected. So he gets back into the ring and then an uneventful finish. Braun Breaker picks up Carmelo Hayes. Looks like he's going to give him a power slam, power move. Carmelo Hayes blocks it. He blocks it, okay? Braun Breaker goes down. Carmelo Hayes climbs the top rope and dives off and hits the leg to the back of the head of Braun Breaker. Drops the leg, like the leg drop, off the top rope onto Braun. Yes, there was a belt shot. But all Carmelo Hayes did was hit him with that one move. 1, 2, 3. Match over. To me, it felt too abrupt, especially with Braun Breaker having as long of a run as he had. The idea that one shot and you're out, I don't know. I kind of felt like that finish should have had a little bit more to it. But after the match was over, Braun Breaker takes the championship. And this was kind of, I don't know if you saw it. I mean, it's probably nothing, but I got a kick out of it. Braun Breaker picks up the belt. Now, this was the only screenshot that I got from it, where Braun picks up Carmelo Hayes' hand and raises it up in the air, and Braun is disappointed, obviously, but passing the torch, the NXT torch, to Carmelo Hayes. But before that, what you just saw, Braun Breaker picks up the belt, and he tells the referee, no, I want to give it to him. So he goes in the middle of the ring with Carmelo Hayes, and Braun Breaker puts his fist up like this. Now, when I saw that, I do this all the time now, fist bump. Somebody puts a fist bump. So maybe this is, maybe what Carmelo Hayes is what you do, like when you want to do more than just a fist bump, but Braun Breaker puts his fist out there, and it looks like, fist bump. Carmelo Hayes, instead of just giving him a fist bump, takes his hand, goes like this. And honestly, I've never had anybody do that to me before. I'm sure maybe it's a gesture that I'm not aware of, but I was like, I think it would have been cool, just fist bump and that's it. Lift his hand up there. But Braun Breaker goes for the fist bump and Carmelo Hayes like this. Like, I'm just thinking like, oh, that kind of like got like a weird romantic twist to it. Cause I could picture like I go up to like my wife and like, hey, we just a fist bump and she does this. And then you look at her eyes and then it's like, is that like a gesture? Like when you want more than just a fist bump, instead of a handshake, you give a hug, but that's what happened. And then he raises his arm in the air and everybody is chanting Melo, Melo, Melo. And they go off the air. So, on a scale of 1 to 10 for NXT standards, I give Stand and Deliver a 7. I think a 7 is very fair. Chase University versus the Schism going on the pre-show, I didn't like it. That match did not feel like Chase University was on the line, as goofy as that storyline is. The women's match had a surprising finish. A lot of the spots felt like spots and like, oh, let me show you what I can do, and sometimes, if somebody does it well, it looks great. But then you see it sometimes, you're like, why are we getting these particular spots? You know what I mean? Like, there was a couple of points outside the ring. There was one point where Tiffany Stratton was going to dump Indi Hartwell, like drop her head first on a ladder. And they like position himself so Indi Hartwell's underneath it, so Zoey Stark could toss over. So when Tiffany Stratton goes down, because of science and momentum, that Indi Hartwell's head pops up, and I'm like, you're being a little too creative. The three-way for the men's tag team titles, I thought was kind of blah. The women's tag team championship, I thought was kind of blah. Nobody did bad, but some of those matches, a little less to be desired. To me, this event was about the five-way, Gargano and Waller, Breaker and Carmelo Hayes. And you know what? As I always say, if you could get 3 really good matches out of any event, even WrestleMania, I know that sounds far-fetched, but you think about your favorite WrestleManias of all time, whether it's 10, 20, 1, 5, whatever. Take any WrestleMania that is some of your favorites. More than likely, you will only bring up 2 or 3 matches that really stand out to you. When everybody talks about WrestleMania 3, everybody talks about Hogan, Andre, Steamboat, Savage. You talk about WrestleMania 13, you talk about mostly Austin and Bret Hart. You know what I mean? Like, you talk about WrestleMania 2000, you think of, the tag, the ladders. You don't think more than 2 or 3 matches. Sometimes you might get lucky and get 4. But if you could get 3 really solid matches that you will remember in the future, yeah, I think that's well-deserved. So I think 7 is fair. My favorite match of the night, Grayson Waller versus Johnny Gargano. My least favorite match of the night, women's tag team title match. Even though I am a big fan of Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, a lot of us wanted them to tag when they were feuding with each other. Everybody, that including me, was like, you know what? They actually look like it'd be a great tag team. Like, you just kind of felt it. You kind of like, you ever see like people fighting, and then you get these perverted people who go kiss, 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 kiss. I didn't want to. I didn't want to see that, but they were feuding. You're like, oh man, I think they would be great teaming up and fucking beating the shit out of other people. We got it. So, anyway, I'm going to get out of here. As far as Gunther this weekend, I don't know if you checked out my WrestleMania predictions, but both Kevin and I think that Sheamus may actually win the title. We think Sheamus will pin Drew McIntyre, and then Gunther's feud with Adam Pearce, where Gunther's been saying, tell me how this is fair. Fighting two people, tell me how this is fair. How this is fair. Doesn't it seem like Gunther's complaining a little bit too much? You complain too much. So now if Gunther loses the championship without being pinned, I could see him on SmackDown. This is not fair. Tell me how this is fair that I lose the title without being pinned. And I think that leads to King of the Ring. I think he wins it. I think he fights Cody Rhodes in the summertime. So, telling you, check out our predictions. Let me tell you something. I'm not saying this to be cocky. There's a lot of podcasters out there that do not like the fact that Kevin and I are doing some shows again. It's not going to be every week, but we are doing shows again. And we have both noticed that some of those bigger shows out there that for years, oh, you two should get back together. Oh, why did you break up in the first place? Now you realize they were just playing the act. They never wanted us back together. Because when we did Forbidden Door, that people thought it was going to be one and done, still to this day, they never gave a shout out to us. Not even in a private message. Hey, it's cool that you two guys are back together. Good to see that. There are a lot of people out there that do not want to, but this is shades of 2005 all over again. And I got news for you. You start looking at some of those lists out there. Yeah, we've actually overtaken, in 2 weeks, the shows have overtaken some of the biggest names out there. But you know what? We're not going to go the 2005 route. We're just going to do our thing, have fun. But I will say this. When I go live, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but I used to do some shows on different nights and different times. And when I started doing some shows on certain times and nights, I don't know if you noticed it. Some other shows out there put their shows the same exact time as mine, the same exact night. So me, I'm like, okay, all right, if this is their night, I don't want to step on their feet. I'll switch this show to a different time or a different night. And then the person switches their show to a different time, different night. It just happens to go up the same time as me. So I have decided, this might even be a little bit of, it's not an announcement, it's a warning. I have decided if I record stuff and I put it on DonTony.com, how do they fight that? When the numbers show, how do you fight? When I go live, you could fight that by putting your stuff up at the same time as mine. But if I record stuff and put it on DonTony.com and iHeart and on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere else, how do you fight that? You can't. You can't. So when you see the numbers going like this, they can't do a damn thing about it. It is what it is, everybody. But you know what? As long as everybody's having a good time, that's all that matters. Honestly, it's all that matters. So I hope you enjoyed this recap. I'm a little surprised that it went as long as it did now. But, we had a nice, fun conversation. Some names, obviously, it looks like are going to be main roster bound. We should know within 2 weeks. Listen, keep this in mind. Just because you may see some names on this Tuesday's episode, because Pretty Deadly is facing D'Angelo and Stax. And we're also getting Odyssey Jones versus Dijak. That's what's scheduled for Tuesday. But even if you do see a Roxanne Perez, even if you do see a Creed Brothers, even if you do see someone else that you are convinced is main roster bound, even Braun Breaker, even if you get Braun Breaker on Tuesday's NXT, does not mean that they ain't going to the main roster. Tuesday is before Friday. So come Tuesday, you might see someone still stick around for a week or two, then go. But I think most people expect them the Raw after Mania or the SmackDown after Mania. So, all right. No 6 WrestleMania recap. Kevin and I are doing Tuesday. It'll be live on Patreon from 10 p.m. to about 11:30 to midnight, and then it'll be online for everyone at midnight. So I am not doing one tomorrow. and I'm not doing one Sunday. I'm going to watch it and enjoy it like everybody else. And, we'll do one on Tuesday. Come Tuesday. It'll only be 48 hours, but plus it lets us sink in. But all right, everybody, I'm going to jet out of here. Much love as always. Have a good one, everyone. Make sure you rest up because think about this. We still got in 90 minutes as of right now, night one of WrestleMania. Let's see if Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn main event this night. Think about all that clickbait and all of that triggering shit the last 2-3 weeks about Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Let's see what happens tonight. And again, if you haven't checked out our prediction show yet, check it out because we have made some pretty wild predictions at times. And we're pretty confident that in some shape or form, everything that we said is going to happen. Maybe not necessarily LA Knight eating a stunner, but there's some surprises coming the next 2 days. And I think we're going to be so worn out tonight. And then we're going to be like, and we get to do it again tomorrow. And then after tomorrow, whether Roman retains to go for the 1,000 days or Cody wins, and then we got the Raw after WrestleMania. So the next 72 hours, and look, 24 hours after that, you got our recap. So the next 4 days, going to be a lot of shit going down. I am so looking forward to it. I hope you all enjoy WrestleMania weekend and definitely post your feedback, your comments. You saw NXT. If there's anything I said you agree with, disagree with, anything that, you spotted that I might not have spotted. But I'll see you all again very, very soon. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody...
I am him. No, he is him. I am me. Welcome to NXT.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's...
Oh, shit. Now things are getting fucked up.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster.
Sorry, everybody.
For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.
I am him, he is me. I have to do PP.